Right, can you sit nicely? I skip meals all the time. I'm used to it. If I go hungry, I go hungry. As long as my son's fed, that's all that matters to me. You're a good boy.
The economic data may be improving, but for Jo and her family, life is still getting harder. Higher bills, rising prices, and since she has to stay at home looking after her son, who has developmental needs, the squeeze has been severe.
We only do like one shop every month because that's what we can afford. So we get as much as we can in that shop and then try and make it last as long as we possibly can.
For many across the country, this is the reality. So while the government can now say inflation has halved, actually, things are a bit more nuanced than that. You can see how prices have gone up, double-digit inflation over there last year, coming down. The government wanted to get it to their halving inflation. That would constitute halving inflation. Indeed, it's now through there, 4.6% CPI inflation. But that's the rate at which prices are rising. So inflation is the rate at which they're rising or falling. And look, they're still in that kind of red territory and quite high. And you get a sense of this, that lump, that increase in prices when you look at the Ofgem price cap. It went up very much. In the future, it's expected to remain around that kind of level. And just look at the difference between what there was before, so the pre-2022 average, and where we're going to be potentially next year. That is about 75% higher bills than we had before. Still, the Chancellor happy to bask in this rare bit of good news, even if it's not technically got much to do with him.
Aren't you just trying to take credit for something that's not actually your responsibility? I mean, it's the Bank of England's job to bring inflation down.
A year ago, markets were worried that borrowing and debt were out of control. We took difficult decisions to bring that borrowing and debt down. And as a result of that, we made it easier for the Bank of England to do their job.
Food prices are still rising at a double-digit rate, partly because a lot of the costs in farms and dairies like this one actually come back to energy.
We are over the peak, but those prices still remain higher than they were 2 or 3 years ago. Our costs are about 30% ahead of where they were in 2019 from a farm level, but we're also seeing volatility on fuel prices, electricity prices.
So a modicum of good news. But as autumn turns to winter, those uncomfortable decisions are coming back to haunt us. How much to heat, how much to eat.
Obviously now that it's coming into the colder months and like, the heating's coming on, but I won't have it on at all throughout the day because I just can't afford it. It's too expensive.
Inflation has now halved, but the cost of living crisis, that isn't over yet. Ed Conway, Sky News.